Hi, welcome to another edition of The Wrap. We're here at Camp Randall Stadium, where today the Wisconsin Badgers beat up on South Dakota 59-10. We're going to talk about a couple of things with Tom Mulhern and Jim Polzine from the State Journal and madison.com. First off, the explosiveness of this offense. 2 straight weeks, 600 yards plus of total offense. Russell Wilson goes off for another 300-yard passing day. Have you seen something like this? Even as much as last year's team put up with points, the explosiveness of this offense.
Well, that's been the big difference, and this is supposed to be a grind them out, chew up the clock offense, and they've shown a definite big strike capability, and I think that's going to be huge, in that second quarter, especially after a sluggish start. There was 3 or 4 straight drives of just a few plays and, 2 minutes or less, so it's definitely a different dimension. Wilson does a lot of things well, and one of those is throw a deep ball, throws a really nice deep ball, and I think it's been huge for this offense so far.
The playbook opens up with a series of runs, and South Dakota is all over it, and it's like Chris just turned the switch today and said, oh, fine, we'll pass.
Well, the funny thing is about today is you look at the stat sheet, and they've had one guy this year go over 100 yards for running back, which at UW is just unheard of. The other thing that jumps out is their tight ends had a collective 1 catch today, so they're finding different ways to do it. But they're getting it done, and they're just putting up massive numbers, and it's just across the board on guys getting it done.
Aaron Henry was rattling off the playmakers on offense, and he left out the receivers and the tight ends. He started rattling off names, and he said, oh, yeah, we have those guys too. So they're in a good spot that way. How about on the defensive side of the ball? A lot of people clamoring for turnovers. They had the stops. Today, they didn't have some of those third down stops, but they did come up with the turnovers. What do you see out of that unit?
They've been solid through 3 games, and you're right. The one thing they hadn't done is create turnovers, and boom, they get 2 on back-to-back possessions today. So, Brett Bielema talked earlier in the week about how those things kind of go in bunches, and today kind of proved that.
Molly?
Well, a big part of that is pressure up front, and I think that helps lead to turnovers. And if they can get a little more, they haven't had to do a lot exotic with their defense as far as blitzes or anything like that, because they haven't had a lot of close games. And I think as the season goes on, they'll dial up a little bit more of that, and I think that's the kind of things that lead to turnovers. And their cornerbacks, their secondary's playing pretty well. The coverage has been really good, and I think that was the big key coming into the season. So I think the turnovers will come.
Let's head down to the locker room and hear what some of the players had to say after this game.
I think we got a solid base and we've got a lot of potential. We're not there yet, but we've got the guys and the coaches that if we continue to work the way we have the last month, we can be something special.
Well, I know we got 4 wins. I think they're wins that we earned. Nobody gave us anything. I really like the process that our guys go through. I thought last week was a perfect opportunity to really gauge the mentality of our team. They really prepared. I didn't hear one guy talking about Nebraska as many times as it was getting brought up to him by outside sources. I thought they respected, again, I think they respect the preparation. And I know it's an excited locker room now to go out and have another work week and see what we can do.
We have a lot of, threats through the air, and, Jared had his first 100-yard game today, so, congratulations to him. But, it helps everyone out when everyone contributes.
We've seen him make plays like that, in practice. He plays big. He's catching the ball, in my opinion, as well as he can with his hands. Very few things are getting near his body. He just plays big. He's a guy that, when he's healthy and is playing well, is as good as any wide receiver in the country. I think right now the part that's exciting is, we're a football team that's getting a lot of recognition, but at the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end position, a couple of the offensive linemen, they might be as good as there is. In not only in our conference but in the country, and it's going to get out there a little bit.
And it's time to hand out today's game balls. First on the offensive side of the ball, Jim Polzine.
Well, there's always a lot of options with this unit, but you got to go with Nick Toon today. Over 150 yards, and he did most of that in the first half. He's just showing what he can do when he's healthy. He hasn't been healthy a lot throughout his career, but he finally is, and he's showing how explosive he can be.
And on the defensive side of the ball, Tom.
Well, one of the 2 turnovers was interception by Chris Borland, and it was a nice play and an interesting return where it kind of broke several tackles. Didn't make a lot of yards, but refused to go down and showed how he is with the ball in his hands. But I think Borland will be the first to tell you he also missed a couple of tackles on a couple other drives. So, and Mike Taylor with the double-digit tackles again. Both of those linebackers. It's been a long time since you could say the 2 best players on Wisconsin's defense are linebackers, and I think you could probably say that right now.
It's time to break out the opponent. We can talk about Nebraska heading in finally in Nebraska week here. This is going to be a huge game this week. Players were talking a little bit about the atmosphere they expect. A lot of them expect to be even crazier than Ohio State, which is hard to imagine. Where do you see this team is at heading into this kind of a showdown? Are they ready for this stage?
Well, they could not be playing better on both sides of the ball. The only question is they have not been tested yet. They haven't been pushed in a four-quarter game, and they haven't played a really quality opponent. So, they've done what they can with the schedule the way it is, and I think they're about as ready as they can be for this game. And I'm glad it's finally here too, because it seems like we've been talking about it for months.
The hype on this game is going to start ramping up. Is this warranted? I mean, where do you cast this game in the Badgers' season?
Well, this season, it's clearly the biggest game. They had to get through this non-conference schedule to make this a big game, and they've done that. And this game's been talked about since it came out on the schedule, and a lot of that has to do with Nebraska and their fans and their history. And I think it is warranted. We'll see if the game lives up to the hype, because there is certainly a lot of hype.
Big Ten Conference opener next Saturday at Camp Randall. Join us for complete coverage throughout the week at madison.com.